Grant Denyer now.
It's Grant Denyer.
The gold logie this year. Oh my God, it's Grant Denyer.
And our mum, Chezzi George. She's really crazy.
It's all true.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Chezzi George.
Yeah, it is.
George, me boy, what's going on in Queensland town?
Grant and Chezzi George, it is actually currently raining really heavily outside. So if it gets a little bit much, just tell me to turn my microphone down. I will do so. I'm also losing my voice, which is perfect for a podcast.
Why?
You got a powerful voice, mate. It'll take a lot to wipe that bad boy out.
Why are you
Thank
losing
you. Look,
your voice?
I've been talking a lot. I've been doing about 9 hours of radio every single day, and
What?
that kind of just takes it out of you. Yeah, I'm doing the breakfast show, I'm doing the morning show, and I'm doing the afternoon show because people around me are sick.
Are you kidding me?
That's just the way it works. No, I'm not. It's pretty crazy.
Are you triple invoicing every day, or are you just being a good corporate citizen where you're just doing this because you just love radio and you're a good boy?
The latter, yeah, the second option. I just love every single second of it, and I will keep doing it until my voice disappears, which, let's be real, it could be after this podcast because we've got a very special one coming up, don't we?
Since you're doing 9 hours of radio, are you just tired of going, and here's another one from Ed Sheeran, it's 9:05.
The biggest challenge when it comes to the type of radio I do, for those who don't know, I'm sort of a workday jock where you back announce and forward announce songs, and commercial radio, very repetitive. So you're playing a similar playlist every single day. So the biggest challenge is to find different creative ways, to hook the Ed Sheeran song that you've played 15 times already.
Is there one song that you're sick of playing?
Is there one song that I'm sick of playing right now? Oh, great question. Good question. There's one called Ferrari by James Hype.
Yeah, I've heard a bit of that.
And I don't even really want to go into that territory. It gives me nightmares every time I hear that song or you mention it.
What about breakfast radio? Are you enjoying that? Because you haven't done that before, have you?
Well, I actually kicked off my career in Brekkie Radio, and I'm doing Triple M Brekkie in the wonderful, wonderful city of Bundaberg at the moment. So it's good fun, getting to learn that market, learn the people listening. I love doing the secret sound. How good's the secret sound?
131060, here's our new segment. What got stuck inside you? Give us a call now and let us know. That's like classic commercial radio, like where you can breakfast radio. You can be a little bit naughty, and it's sort of fun. So you hope you're doing those wacky stunts, mate.
I certainly am. All inspiration from this very podcast, and I could get fired
curious,
potentially.
What did get stuck inside you? What was an answer that was given to that question?
Look, to be honest, if I open a news website and I see a weird X-ray of someone's internals, I got to click on that story to see what that person jammed inside them. There was one the other day where someone got a skipping rope down their penis hole and it went all the way like into their bladder. And I was like, bro, that's a lot of effort to weave that into your penis hole.
I think there's even a case
there's so many
where
questions I have right now.
a light bulb once got stuck up somebody's arse.
Jesus, you wouldn't want that to smash.
Smashed. Well, it did smash.
What are they doing this like sexually or
no?
Who puts a
he fell on the roof while he was naked. What? How else was he going to get one of them up your bum?
What? I was thinking more still the skipping rope. I was like, what?
That would be a slow process to just millimetre by millimetre.
Are they unwell?
Well, that's a pretty hard.
They are now.
Fantasy. Now they're in the ER and in a lot of pain. They're unwell.
That is so wrong. Oh my God, we need to talk to your sister.
131060, what have you put in your pee-pee hole? Give us a call now.
We need to talk to
I think it's
your
13
sister.
24 10 on the Nova Network.
Whatever. I think you're right. I think I was doing a wrong network.
We need to talk to Auntie Kendall, who's
Jesus.
And Uncle Lockie.
That's a good chat.
That's a good chat.
Anyone who's been in the ER room a long time will tell you some sick stuff that I want to hear about.
That is full on.
What's today all about, bud?
So you know how last episode I spoke about how I did that lesson with the medium school, you know, and I said I was like really into it and it was.
And as it turns out, you're bloody good at it.
Well, Thank you. I still kind of think it might be a bit of a fluke, but I reached out to the teacher and we've got her on today. I thought maybe we could talk to her a little bit about getting more in touch with your intuitive side.
Now, the interesting thing about this guest is they believe everyone can be a medium / psychic. Is that right?
Yeah. They think that everybody has the skills and apparently we're all born with the knack to tap into our intuitive side, but I don't know whether just as we're growing up, we get told to not be silly or we start to doubt ourselves. And
all right, let's bring him in.
Yep. So Rory is joining us all the way from Toronto.
Toronto, E. Come on.
I've got family in Toronto.
Do you really?
Really?
Let's ask Rory if they know them.
Why is that not working, Grant?
I don't know. There we go.
All right, I think this is Rory here.
Hello.
Hi, Rory. Welcome to It's All True.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Oh my gosh.
Is this our first international guest?
I think so.
I think it might be. This is a big milestone in our little podcast over here in Australia. So, hooray!
All the way from Canada. I love it.
Toronto, is that where you are?
I'm just west of Toronto, so close enough, yeah.
Yeah. And you got to say Toronto, don't you? You don't put any T's in there, like not Toronto.
Toronto, yeah, you got it.
Toronto.
Oh my God, I am so excited. I actually have like really weird goosebumps and I'm feeling a little bit unwell in the stomach. Is that normal?
Or diarrhea.
I think we might get into that tonight because often when we sense energy, there are so many ways that we sense it that seem physical, right? That are really much more about our intuitive senses versus our physical senses of feeling, taste, sight, all of that. So absolutely normal.
Okay, awesome. All right. So first of all, let's get you to introduce yourself and maybe give us a little rundown on when you first started getting into the whole medium.
And what you do. Yeah.
And what you do, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Rory Walkom. I'm the owner of the Medium School, and I got into all of this world because my dad died, and I had a reason to tune in to the other side. And, I'm not a medium who only does readings because I'm such a believer, like we all have this ability within us. I'm not special because I've developed this ability, right? We might not all do it on the same level where we're doing readings for other people or teaching other people to do this. But, if I can develop this after my dad passed in my late 20s, we all can, right?
And this is the thing that's fascinating, right? Because I'm sure occasionally some person might hear mediumship. Oh, I don't know how that works. I can't do that. I don't understand. Then they shut themselves down. However, if you believe everyone can do it, think about how amazing, or perhaps tell us how amazing could life be if you are in tune with these signals and you're able to read the universe and you're getting those messages. Does it improve and can it improve your life significantly?
Every part of your life. Yeah. And I think we all have an intuition within us. And I think we also all have that ability to connect with those on the other side of life. So whether it's your past loved ones, whether it's a spirit guide, whether it's your soul or your highest self, like we can all tune in and tap into that, right? And I think what a lot of people assume when you start working with your intuition or past loved ones, that they'll only help you with the big life stuff. So, a lot of people will think, if I'm considering a big change in career, right, that might be what they would give me guidance on. And certainly, my dad helped me so much with that. I wouldn't be sitting here today without his guidance and support with that. But it's all the little stuff too, right? And I think the most life-changing part of opening up to your intuition, whatever that looks like for you, I think the most life-changing part is knowing that you're not alone. You've got guidance every step of the way. And even on the tiny little things, when I'm at the grocery store and I'm asking, my spirit guides, have I forgotten anything on my list? They're there for that. They're there for the big life-changing stuff too. And it's pretty affirming to know that none of us are alone, but it's not just that they're around, that they are supporting us and are active participants still in our life, which is pretty dang cool.
That's so comforting. Have you always been a bit spiritual? Have you always been in touch?
I love this question, because if you would have asked me that 10 years ago, right before my dad passed, I would have been like, no, not really. And it's interesting. The more I opened up, the more I remembered moments from my childhood, from my teenage years, where I was sensing spirit, where I was seeing them, or where I was just getting, intuitive nudges, but I didn't necessarily understand it at the time. And that's something I see with so many of my students. Like, they will start developing and opening up and think, oh, I've been getting messages like this all along, and I just didn't realize that's what it was. Or I actually did see spirits as a kid, and now I remember it.
Did you, if you got into it for the purposes of connecting with your dad once he passed, did that happen? And did you form an ongoing dialogue or exchange with your dad?
Absolutely. And it started pretty slow. And I think that's for a lot of people. Grief messes up every part of your life, right? So it's hard to focus on much through that. But there was one moment about a year after he passed where I really sensed my dad, not just in signs or symbols or, felt his presence here and there, but he came through where I would see him. And not like how people think you'll see a ghost. Like, it's not like a person standing there, full apparition. For me, it's much more of almost like a sort of wispy, smoky, contoured silhouette of him. But it's not just the seeing by itself. So in that moment, I saw that silhouette, but I felt his energy, just like if when he was still alive and he'd be in my presence. Like, I could just feel that calling card. And I could smell his cologne, and I could hear his voice, and I could know, the messages that he was bringing through. And it took a while to be able to get open enough to have that experience. But it was incredibly life-changing to just feel like, to have proof that I wasn't making it up. It wasn't just one thing here and there that you could write off as coincidence. Like, this was a full-out visitation. And while I wish it would happen like that every day, that takes a lot of energy from spirit. But knowing that he's there, I can feel him around whenever I call him in. And even when I don't call him in, I know he's there. And I really, really love the fact that he was the guy that whenever I had a question, I would call him. I can still do that with him past. It's just in a different way.
And how has he helped you along the way from the other side? Is it like helping you find, a car park at Christmas time when the shopping center's full? Is it those kind of benefits?
I would say there's certainly small things like that. But, one of the first big things he helped me with is when he passed away, I was working in what I thought was my dream job. And, I had health issues my whole life. I've struggled with chronic health issues, and I never thought I would get to the point where I could work, let alone where I thought I wanted to, full time, making a difference. And after he passed, my health started to fall apart. And I was so resistant, to holding on to, I want to stay in this job. I want to keep, doing this. I've worked so hard to get to this point. And eventually I felt his shoulder, or his hand on my shoulder, one morning when I was trying to get up to force myself to go to work. And it was almost as if I knew he was just saying, like, you don't have to force yourself. And it was so interesting over the next year. It took time to sort of see where he knew I was going, where he knew my path was leading me. I didn't know at the time, but having that trust where I could feel his presence and know that he's saying, like, this isn't worth your energy anymore. There is something better out there for you. And like I said, I wouldn't be here today without that guidance. I didn't know I would end up being a professional medium for other people. I just wanted to connect with him. But truly, the big things like that are just, I feel so incredibly lucky. And that's why, I don't want to just do readings for other people. I love doing them. But the ability for everyone to connect with their loved ones in their own way, there's nothing like it. It is so life affirming, and pretty amazing.
I've got tears rolling down my cheeks right now, just picturing your dad's hand on your shoulder. That was pretty emotional, wasn't it?
That's a really, really powerful and cool thing. I think there's lots, God, what one of us hasn't felt so stuck in life that you're paralyzed and you're frozen and you don't know how to take that next step. You don't know which direction to look. You don't feel like you've got the strength or the courage or the stamina to be able to kind of force yourself to make a decision and to know that you can call on these other forces when you feel so helpless to try and help, bring you the right
The clarity
and direction is a wonderful thought, because God, I think every single person can relate to that.
Yeah.
That's part of the human condition, right? We aren't able to have trust in our own journey or in ourselves for the entire way. Those in spirit, whether, again, that's our past loved ones or even just your soul, your highest self, they can see what we can't. And having that trust that they're there to support you is something I hope everybody can get.
Does it work? The power of manifestation is something that we kick around a fair bit in our household. And I know that without even trying, sometimes I'll say something and then that thing will materialize strangely in the next couple of days. Something that I thought was impossible and thought that no one else was aware that I was even thinking this, and then bang, it appears. And we were like, oh my God, that is, wow, what are the chances? Is that those on the other side and those, forces of the universe conspiring to help us?
It certainly can be. Oftentimes with things manifesting in our physical environment, certainly can be the support of our loved ones and our spirit guides. But we also have a lot more power in that than we realize. And I think often, when it comes to developing our intuition or manifesting things, we sort of forget the real power we have within ourselves. Because the part of us that lives on after death is with us now, right? That non-physical part, that energetic part. And it works miracles when we can sort of speak out what we want, envision it, envision having it in our lives, regardless of how small or big it is, right? That non-physical part of us is pulling it in to our physical world where we can see it.
Wow. George is 21 years of age. He's our third member of this podcast team. So he's very new to all this spiritual talk as a young bloke discovering himself. George, it's pretty amazing though, isn't it? But you're kind of inspired by the fact that the universe and our loved ones past are all want us to succeed, want us to do well.
It is so wild. Rory, those sort of goosebumps that Chezzi was speaking of before this podcast started, I think she's passed it on to me now. I've got like this weird, like my heart's pumping and I feel like there's some weird energy happening in this podcast right now. So I'm keen to learn more as we go. But I've got to say, you found your niche in this area and helping people out. You've got the most calming voice I have ever heard in my entire life. Do you have a podcast? Do you have a way of just speaking to at least me every single day just to make me feel comfortable?
I don't have a podcast, but if you're welcoming me back now, George, I'll be back on. No, I do have a YouTube channel that I'm investing
that will be on
more
repeat.
and especially starting to do some meditations for people.
Yeah,
perfect. That's what it's got to be.
That was one thing in the development circle that I did the other day with you. You did like a little, like a 5-minute meditation, which I felt really helped. I know that you said that that's quite important to raise your vibrations, before you kind of get in touch with that. Why is that important?
Yeah, so especially when you want to connect with those on the other side of life, like I always say, they are in heaven so far away from us, right? It isn't this dimension that's above us and away from us. It's all around us, right? But it's in a different vibration. And because the afterlife, heaven, whatever you want to call it, it is the most blissful, peaceful, euphoric, utopian place. we're not necessarily a great match for that energy in our day-to-day lives, right? We are all intuitive, but that doesn't mean it's on 24/7. It usually isn't, right? So the better feeling place we can get usually is a sign that we're in a higher vibration. And that means we're a closer match to our intuition, those in the spirit world, past loved ones, all included. And for me, meditation is one of the best ways to get there. For some people, it's singing and dancing. For other people, it's playing with the kids or the dogs, or, lighting candles and praying, right? Whatever it is for you. But I find it so important that wherever we are on a day-to-day basis, we stop to get to a more uplifted feeling place, so that the connection with our intuition is just so much more apparent. Because whenever we get messages, they're quite subtle, right? They are so easy to ignore or not see or write off as coincidence. And the more we raise our vibration, just the closer match we are, the more we get, and the easier it is to trust.
If someone's new to this, what do you mean by messages? In what form? What kind of messages? What's some examples of how someone might reach out? By what means?
Yes. So there are two common sort of areas that will receive messages. And for a lot of people, the first area that they'll start getting is just signs and symbols in their environment. So that might be, on my wedding day, the butterfly clinging to the side of my dress. I know that was my dad, right? It might be a bird showing up, or, songs playing, or dimes that you find on your car seat, right? Different things like that showing up in your physical environment are definitely a way that we can receive messages. But usually the next step is receiving messages through our intuitive senses. And it's just like our physical senses. We all have more than one of them. You might hear some mediums or psychics say, I'm a clairvoyant or a clairaudient. And I say, awesome, but you also have the rest of them too, right? We all do. And so, clairvoyant is usually a really common one that people have heard of. That's intuitive sight. So like I said, when my dad showed up and I could see that sort of silhouette of his energy, that's clairvoyance. But so is seeing energy around people in auras, or so is seeing orbs or symbols or colors when you meditate. All of that falls under clairvoyance, and is a common way to receive messages, but it doesn't just happen by itself. So with that, clairsentience is one of the other intuitive senses, which is all about intuitive feeling and sensing. And for a lot of people, this is the one where they get so much more that they don't realize, because it feels physical, right? There's a change in temperature when a spirit steps in, and they think it's a physical change in temperature, that if somebody else was sitting beside them, they'd feel the exact same thing, right? But when it's coming from an intuitive sense, the person beside you isn't sensing it. This is energy that you're sensing. So temperature changes, feeling a presence, feeling a touch on your shoulder, all of that is clairsentience. Clairaudience is the intuitive sense of hearing. And a lot of people will think that's just, hearing, a spirit's voice clearly. Well, it can be that. It's also, hearing ears ringing, right? Just exact when you need to pay attention to something, or even a whoosh in your ear when a spirit's stepping forward, or even a little bit of pressure in that inner ear that, again, there's no physical reason to have. And the other main intuitive sense, there's a few more, but of the four main ones, claircognizance is the most intangible, and they're all subtle, but claircognizance is the intuitive sense of knowing. And I think this is another one, again, where a lot of people get a lot of messages, but think it's, it's just my mind, or I've figured this out. And usually it's just, something, but you don't know why you know it. And often when we're working with these intuitive senses, it's not just one at a time, right? As we first start developing, we might feel like I'm just getting, an ear ringing, or I'm just getting a feeling. But the more we open up, it's all of them all together, just as we experience the physical world with our physical senses all at the same time. So oftentimes when I'm, first connecting with a spirit, I'll feel their energy, and then I'll see them. And then, and they might show me a memory, and I'm seeing it, but I'm also feeling it and knowing it and hearing it, and all of these things at the same time. And I think when it comes to receiving messages, everybody does it in a different way. but we all have those faculties of our intuitive senses to receive. And the more you open up to the idea that they're within you, the more you're going to start getting with them.
I love that.
Claire Cognizance, she was my library teacher in high school. She was lovely.
Oh, she wasn't. Was she not?
You mentioned. Oh, my microphone moved. It's the spirit.
It's a sign. It's a sign. We
get all those things you were talking about. Orbs. Yeah. We get plenty of orbs in the background of this podcast. George points them out all the time. We see them back when we look at the video. We got birds around our house. We have a constant protection of magpies around us. We see different patterns of things. Most of those things you mentioned. The problem I have, though, is interpreting the meaning of those. I see them. I know they're there, and I know this is a special message. I have trouble understanding what the message is.
And so much so, can I just add to that last year we had 15 birds in a row fly into windows in a couple of weeks. And then we ended up getting a medium on, and they said that it was Grant's grandparents were trying to get a message to him, like basically going, wake up.
How do we, if you do have the ability to see these little signatures and signs and little moments, how do we derive a meaning from them?
Great question. One of the keys I find to sort of opening up your intuitive abilities is asking for the awarenesses. And oftentimes when we get a sign and a symbol and our immediate response is, I don't know what this is, then we're blocking from receiving that awareness. Versus if we just say, all right, I'm seeing signs, I don't know who they're from, but I know they're from someone. I've got that feeling with it too. It's not just a sign. You might say spirit team, past loved ones, whoever. What do I need to know here? What's the message? And just that simple act of asking, right? You might not get an answer right away. It might come a week later when you're doing the dishes. It might come a month later, in a form that you don't expect. But just that act of asking opens up your energy to receive versus everybody's instant response of, I don't know what it is. And then we close off and we block ourselves from receiving it.
Spirit team. Ask your spirit team. I love that term. So that could encompass angels. It could be God, whatever God you subscribe to. It could be the universe. It could be past relatives. It's sort of everyone.
All of the above. That's why I like that term, because you don't have to know who's on it, right? You might have an idea of some of them, but you can ask for their guidance and advice just by talking to your spirit team. And they hear you, whether this is out loud or in your head, right? I might be the crazy person who will talk to them out loud no matter where I am, but you don't have to. They will hear you no matter what.
So that's making the assumption that we pretty much have someone assigned to us, everyone, all the time.
Or several people.
Or several
energies.
Tons. We're never alone. And I often find with spirit guides, there might be one or two that are with us our entire life, but everyone we're connected to, those that we're closest to in life, they don't just leave us when they pass, right? And, there might be some past loved ones that you didn't have as close of a connection to. They might still be on your spirit team, but not be as in an active role. But if you had a close connection to somebody and they've passed, odds are they've joined your spirit team and are actively guiding you in one way or another.
I love that. It was only last week I was in the bathroom and I was cleaning, and very loud in my ear I heard Sunday, which is our baby daughter. Did you just get goosebumps then?
Yeah.
I heard in my ear, Sunday is under the kitchen cupboard and she has the bleach. Now, I was down the other end of the house. Did you feel that? I just felt like all tingly then. Yeah. And came running out, and she had the bleach and the lid off the bleach, about to put her mouth onto the bleach bottle underneath the kitchen sink. And I kind of dismissed that a bit, but I told you later on, I was like, it was really strange. It was so clear, and I don't know whose voice it was, but it was
And to add that, only 2 days ago I was sitting on the couch watching television, and I was at home looking after the little one, and she'd snuck off, and I'd just given, it was a really hot day, and I'd just given her a piece of ice, and I was like, something's wrong. Stood up, turned around, she's around the corner, she was standing, couldn't breathe, had an ice cube in her throat. So something compelled me to do that. And these are typical examples.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in Chezzi, in your example, It started with clairaudience, right? There's a hearing element, regardless of whose voice it is, right? Sometimes clairaudience can even sound like our own voice,
Yeah.
right? But it comes with a feeling of this is important, or a knowing of like, this is true, I got to pay attention,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely great examples. And with yours, Grant, it's like that knowing right away, right? And it's like you just know you need to pay attention. Yeah.
When it comes to you're saying to really embody the true power that's available to all of us, that you need to be direct. You need to ask for what it is that you need. I feel a little embarrassed sometimes to ask, to be selfish, to ask for something on a global scale is small but important to me. Like, I feel like I should be asking for world peace, but when I go, can you please help me, find my direction in my career, or I would really like, that job, or can you help me find my car? Something, I feel like whatever it is I'm asking for is not important enough, and I don't want to bother them. You know what I mean? And I'm not asking for something big like, can you end world hunger? So I struggle with being direct and asking for something in my mind that is a bit silly.
Absolutely. And it's I've been there. Absolutely. And it's something that I've learned, that when I want to be able to ask for those big life-changing things, whether it's healing world hunger or something life-changing for yourself, it's almost like if I don't have a relationship with my guides before I'm asking for the big stuff, it's much harder to receive their guidance. And it's not necessarily that they need to guide you with everything, but they want to, right? They are with you and connected to you and guiding you for a reason, that if you're just leaving it for the big, life-changing, momentous stuff, we're missing out on so much more. And I often think that those on the other side of life have such a keen, it's so easy for them to feel how connected we are all to each other. It's much harder for us. And, it's certainly something, the more you ask for their guidance, the more you feel this interconnectedness, and that perhaps the little things that you're asking for, may not be important on a global scale. If they're important enough to you that you need guidance and support, they want to support you with them.
Okay.
And also they might help you with something on an everyday level that then you go on to help world hunger.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah. What about, like, to give it another example here, when we took a load of rubbish to the rubbish tip, and I took a pin out of the trailer to lower the back of the trailer down, and I unloaded everything, and then like it's an enormous rubbish dump. Like, this is huge, a whole city's rubbish dump, right? And then I lost that pin, and it was somewhere in this mountainous amount of rubbish that was everywhere. And I'm beating myself up, and I'm angry, and God, how could I didn't put it on the side of the trailer. I've thrown it out with now the rubbish, and I've thrown rubbish out everywhere in this tip, and there's white goods over there, and there's garden waste over there, and I've thrown it all in 100 different piles. And I'm like, how on earth am I going to find this pin to put the back of the trailer up so we can drive home? We were stuck at the tip, and I'm kicking things over, and I'm swearing at myself, and I'm turning bits of rubbish over, and I thought, I can't. It's like a needle in a haystack. This is crazy. This is pointless. And then Chezzi goes, stop, breathe, ask your grandfather. Ask your grandfather for his help. Say, I need your help. Help me find this pin. And I kid you not, I reckon I turned over one more thing, bang. There it was. And I was just drawn to it. And there is no other way on earth or in heaven that I would have found that on my own.
Yeah.
They help with everything, right? And that's a perfect example of how just asking opens up your energy. But there's also another piece in play there, I think, too. And oftentimes when it comes to receiving more intuitive messages, the clearer our mind is, the easier it is to receive. So when you're already thinking, I can't find this, I'm mad at myself, there's no way in hell it's going to come, right? There's no way you're going to get that message. But as soon as you ask for it, there's an element of opening up your energy. There's an element of trusting, perhaps even just trusting your wife, right? That allows you to clear your mind a little bit of that frustration, which also raises up your vibration. And it's like they could have helped you before then. You just weren't ready for it, right? In that moment, you were ready to find it.
We have this really weird relationship where sometimes we're lost and I'll say, oh, follow, that's my lucky car. Oh, look at the number plate numbers. Yeah. And so even the other day I said to Grant, we've been married for 13 years. And I said, oh, 3, that's a lucky number for us. And he was like, hang on, 8 is your lucky number.
And 9.
And 9.
And 4.
And 11. And I was like, yeah. But I see all these different numbers and I feel different feelings about them, and it's annoying for you because you're so factual at times, isn't it? Because I'll say, I don't know how I know this. I feel it in my waters. I don't know how to explain it, but I just know it.
You've done this in another life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally, she sees this, she has this car, this one type of car that is her sign, right? And it blows my mind because I'm a bloke and I'm factual and I'm a Virgo, right? I deal with in hardcore evidence, but I'm opening up. My instrument is sharpening. But we will literally be going, oh God, do you reckon we should, should I take this job? And then her car will drive past and it literally had the number plates, yes, on it. Like it was that obvious this one time. It was like, oh my God, if we get lost somewhere, she goes, follow that car, it'll get us to the place. And sure enough, it got us to the bottle shop that we were looking for.
And it's a random car. And it was parked outside my dressmaker's shop when I was being fitted, when Grant was going for the Gold Logie. What's the
an
equivalent?
Emmy, the Australian equivalent of the TV Emmy Awards. I was up for nomination for the Gold Award and
for the big one, and I was being fitted, and then my car, this lucky car, pulled up outside the dressmakers in a flashing gold colour with awful yellow seats, but just so out there. And I said, he's going to win. He's actually going to win.
And I did.
Yeah. Yep. So
that's such a good example, though, of how intuition, it doesn't make sense all the time, right? Like there's not a specific reason of that's my car, that's why I'm getting these messages, or this is why it's guiding me. It just feels right, right? And I think oftentimes when we want to receive intuitive messages, our mind can get in the way, right? That's why the clearer our mind is, the easier it is to receive things. But for somebody who might be a little bit more analytical, right, they might get that feeling of this is the car, he's going to win, but then their mind's going to think them out of it, right? And I think the more you start to recognize those moments when it comes, your mind still might think you out of it later. That's okay. But it's that knowing of, I don't know why I know it, but I know it, and it feels right in my body. It feels right in my soul. That is intuition, even if your mind can tell you otherwise after.
I love that.
Yeah, I believe that we are a highly in tune antenna as human beings. We receive vibration and information and energy and gifts from the universe all the time. However, we're very good at muting that down. What are the things that we do as humans that kind of dampen those skills that we're all guilty of doing that we maybe could stop doing it? Is it social media? Is it stress? Is it bad diet? What should we stop doing so we can make this instrument that we all have as powerful as possible so we can receive all its gifts?
Yeah, I think our world is surrounded with things that separate us from ourselves, right? And it can start in childhood when we're full and our parents say, you need to eat more, right? And we learn to, hey, my instincts aren't as important as what I'm being told, right? Our entire world, our entire lives are filled with that. And it's different for everyone, right? I think the more we can listen to our feelings, our wants, our needs, our random purposes and callings and things that we're passionate and excited about in life, the more we can connect to ourselves, and the easier it is to hear our intuition. And for a lot of people, we have a lot of distractions in this world. It's interesting. When I work with spirit, they use a lot of symbols to give messages. And one of my symbols for addiction is not necessarily addiction that we would see it in this world where it's a specific substance or booze or things like that. It might be, but it's anything that distracts us from what we're truly feeling or thinking or experiencing. And, social media can be a great one for that, right? Relationships can be a big distraction, right? When we're skipping to one after the next one, it's different for everyone. But it's certainly the things that keep us in bondage, the things that keep us from connecting to what we feel, what we instinctually know, what we intuitively can receive, that stops us from getting more.
Rory, can we do a hypothetical, and I'll try and explain it as best as possible, but say there's somebody in my life that I haven't had a really good connection with in this, this current world, this living situation, and then they pass on, and then they give me signs or signals or messages that are a little bit harmful. They might be cracking a window, or you nearly drive into something, whatever. Is there a way you can mend that relationship, that connection that you've got going on there?
Is this actually happening in your life, George, right now?
No, it's not, but I just had a thought. Imagine if someone out there is having bad signals happening to them. Can you repair that?
So what I would say is oftentimes when we're feeling like we're getting negative signs or things like that, it's not necessarily a past loved one sending those, because there is no one who is past that is not in a beautiful utopian place, right? I know so many of us grew up being taught that, there's a heaven and a hell. And in my experience, we can make hell on earth pretty easily, but everyone is accepted into the afterlife no matter what. And so I would hazard to say it may not be as much of a past loved one sending those signs, but your energy still connected to them, that when they're coming through, it might be coming in a way that's not so helpful. And if that's the case, what I would say is communicate to them. Say hey, we don't need to do this anymore. I might not be ready to forgive you yet, but show me how I can. Right. And I've experienced this with an aunt who's passed, who I did not have a good relationship with in life, wasn't a great sister to my mom. So I wasn't very open to her in life. And the night she passed, she showed up and instantly was a different person. You can just feel this healing, this higher perspective that she didn't have in life. And there is no judgment against her. We all have our shit in life, right? There is no judgment for her. But as soon as she was on the other side, just a completely different person. And it's so interesting that even though I didn't have much of a relationship with her in life, she shows up when I need her to now. And she is a spirit guide for me. Certainly not to the degree my dad is, but she shows up and is the truer version of herself that I never got to meet in this life. Wow. And I think that's so often with everyone on the other side. They still have who they were in this life, but they have a bigger perspective. They have healing that has gone on. So they are the highest versions of themselves when they're not in this physical form.
What a nice thing to know.
That's
that
so
no
nice,
matter
isn't it?
the cards that you're dealt, or no matter how horrible or hard your life might have been, you still elevate up. You still evolve into this unbelievable being, living this extraordinary experience, at the end of it all. That
is nice.
Yeah, because not everyone has a great life,
No.
There's a lot of people who suffer a lot of hardships. Do you ever get people explaining physical things that happen around the home? Maybe you're thinking about something and then a book falls out of the bookcase. You know what I mean? Something as obvious as that, and it's the book, and it opens on a page that you're meant to read. Are there ever instances of things as obvious as that?
Totally. And the one thing I will say is it doesn't need to be obvious to be a sign from spirit, because they are often much more subtle than we would want them to be. But sometimes they can be more obvious. I've had a lot of spirits come through and they'll talk about turning on a radio or flashing a light or, pushing a book off the shelf right when that person was ready for that message. Right. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of spirit sending us signs is they're around us all the time. They know when we're ready for them. They know when we're not. And it's usually in the exact moments when we can pay attention to them that we're going to get the bigger, more obvious ones like that.
I've just started getting like real heart flutters and like real sweaty hands. And I feel like someone's telling me that they're trying to contact Grant. Am I right? Is there somebody saying that they want to speak to Grant through you?
It's
Rory?
funny. I didn't necessarily come through here with the intention to give messages, but the whole time I've been on here, somebody's tugging on my shirt.
Yeah.
So I know we need to give some messages.
Yeah.
And that knowing, right? Of like, I don't know why, but it's almost like there's a knowing that you've got something for Grant, but also like I almost want to say like it feels similar to when I had one of my first mediumship experiences, and I'll trust this will make sense to you, Chezzi, but this was my first mediumship experience for someone else. So I had felt my dad's presence around. I hadn't had that experience where I saw him and heard him and all of these at once, but I felt him around. And I was in a yoga class where the entire class, I felt what I thought was my dad, but it wasn't my dad. And near the end of the meditation, I kept feeling a pull towards the person beside me. And at the end of the class, I did what I say no medium should do. I just asked if her dad was passed. I didn't ask if she wants a message or was open to it. I didn't know anything about boundaries then. But it was the person beside me's dad who had passed. And I was feeling his energy, but through a pull to her. And it was so similar to my dad, but not my dad. Right. Mm. And I trust this will make sense to you, Chezzi, because it's like there's a knowing, but it feels like too, there's almost that clear sentient feeling of like you're being pulled to Grant in this moment too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't quite know how to describe it because it's all very new to me, but I felt like someone was tapping me on the shoulder saying, okay, you need to it's time to get a message for Grant now. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm ready.
Well, if we're open, let's open up then. The two things I usually do to connect, like we talked about before, I always want to raise my vibration. So I meditated before here, just, we had a few spirits around. I figured it might come up, but that's the one thing I often do to get my energy going. And then the other thing I do is almost that same act of just opening to receive. So I usually ask that I receive messages that are healing and helpful and of the highest and best. Right. I often say that this work, even though we're doing it on a podcast, is not for entertainment, right? It's not for shits and giggles. It should be helpful and healing. So I always set the intention that whatever comes through is helpful and healing.
Helpful and healing at highest and best.
I love that.
Wow.
Shall we see who wants to come through?
Oh my God.
Stop talking.
Okay, shut up.
Talking,
yep.
Well, we'll start with Grant then. So I always sense their energy first, and I feel like it's helpful here if I sort of explain how I'm receiving things, because I think there's so much in the mediumship world that is so mystical, and it's nice to just demystify it. We can all do this, right? So I always feel their energy first. And for me, female shows up on the left side, male shows up on the right side, and it's a clairsentient thing. So it's a feeling on one side or the other. So although I might have a couple coming together, it's a female who I think would identify as grandma, but she feels motherly to you. Like there's certainly this feeling of raising you, watching over you. I'm not sure your whole life, but certainly when you were younger. I feel a real duality in her personality. And again, this is a feeling, but there's a sense of like this loving, warm kindness, compassionate, like a really nurturing, mothering energy. But then I can almost sort of see her like cracking the whip. So there's that duality of this compassionate, kind woman, but also like I know how to lay down the law sort of energy. When she steps into my energy more, I can see her a little bit more. And she has what I like to affectionately describe as grandma hair. Like sort of the short, white, sort of, puffy grandma hair that I always associate with a grandmother. And it's interesting. I wonder if this is grandma and grandpa together, but she's showing me this idea that grandpa would have passed, I think right before her is the feeling I get. Like, I don't know that this is the day before, but we're not talking about 10 or 20 years. Like this feels like he would have passed first. And she's talking about him greeting her in the spirit world. And I really feel there was a lot of love between them in life. There's even more love between them on the other side. And there's such a message of, it's like I can just feel her patting you on the back. I don't know if you ever feel that or you feel it right now, but there's a sense of pride. There's a sense of, look at how far you've come since she's been gone. She hasn't missed a piece of it, she says. She's seen every single stop on the journey. And she's talking about your kids. She's showing me, you guys have 3 kids. I think she's showing me 3.
That's correct.
There's a sense of a naming connection with her is the feeling I get.
That's correct.
And it's like she puts her hand on her heart and she's so honored, because it's not just about a name. It's about a memory. It's about the love. It's about the connection. Like, she just feels like you keep her alive. And I can almost sort of see her now. This is a clairvoyant. I can see the image in my mind's eye, but I can feel it almost clairaudiently too. There's a sense of almost like she's blowing in your ear. And so I don't know if you ever get sort of that, not necessarily ringing, but it feels like sort of pressure whooshing, like it feels like she uses your clairaudience. And it might not be, specific words that you hear yet, but there's a sense of something in my ear. That's her coming through.
Yeah, I've had a tingling in my ear for the last couple of months. I've never had it before, and
he constantly does these.
It's constant,
and it's the left ear, correct?
Yeah, correct. It is the left ear.
Constantly.
Yeah, and it happens a lot at night when I lie down in bed for the first time. So yes, all of those things you mentioned are absolutely true. Our youngest, her middle name is named after
our middle child,
my grandmother.
Scout,
Oh, sorry, second one. Yeah.
Mm.
There's certainly a sense of she wants you to talk to her. She wants you to ask her for more guidance, because she just feels like, I'm always going to be an active part of your life, right? She's like, you can't get rid of me. Not that you try, but I certainly feel like there's a message of you can ask, you can call on her more. Yeah.
Wow. Why does it always follow such strong emotional responses when something like this happens? Like Jesus, I wasn't expecting that.
I think that's how often most people, of course we have our own emotional response to our grief and missing people, but I also think that's how most people feel spirit and intuitive energy, is with heightened emotions, right? And that's something I often experience. If I start crying in a reading, I'm not going to stop myself, because oftentimes their energy is so much more heightened that the more I feel it, the more I receive. So it's not uncommon that people, when receiving messages, will feel even a more heightened emotion than just their grief alone.
I cry all the time.
Yes, you do.
I'd be a terrible medium. I'd be like,
I don't know that that's true. I think you'd be a great medium, and I think you do it more already than you realize, Chezzi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, possibly. So. I'm doing your course though. I'm going to do that so that I can work on,
Do you want to mention what the course is, so people have a broader understanding and can look her up and then find out more information? Would you want to fill in that gap for us?
Yeah, so they can find me on the Medium School, and the course that Chezzi's taking is my Intuitive Collective course. So it's a 10-week course where we focus on some mediumship development, we focus on some psychic development, which isn't as much past loved one communication, but tuning into sort of future forecasts for yourself or others. And it sort of gives you different tools to receive messages. So oftentimes when we're first opening up into our intuition, we think we need to just receive messages through our intuitive senses, and sometimes using other tools like the tarot or channeled writing or scrying. Different tools can help us get more messages. So in that course, we cover a heck of a lot in 10 weeks. I say it's my crash course in intuitive development, but we sort of cover the basics of how to open up, how to connect with your spirit guides, how to protect your energy and take care of yourself as somebody who's opening up more to this world, but then also different ways so you can find the ways that work best for you to receive intuitive messages.
Are you feeling
I'm so
anything else
excited.
at the moment? Like, so I got my message, which is I got to ask my grandma for some direct help. And I must admit, I am pretty lost at the moment. Don't know what to do professionally. Don't know when the next bit of work is going to come. And I will ask. I will ask with much more conviction and direction and with clarity.
And I would say she would add on there is you might not know the next step, but you're on the path to a little bit of a shift to where you've been, but exactly where your purpose, your soul wants to align you with. And I think almost sometimes spirit can give us, an exact destination of where we're going. But sometimes if they give that, we'll be like, well, who am I to do that? Right? We won't even believe that it's possible. So oftentimes they'll give us breadcrumbs to lead us on the path. And I feel like this has been happening for you. Like I certainly feel like there's, I don't know the end destination, but there's a sense of, I'm heading in the right direction, might not have clarity on what it is. Right. And I certainly get the feeling of the more you ask and stay open, it's almost like you're going to get those knowings, that clear cognizant of like, this is important. I need to go pursue this. This lights me up. And I feel like that's in particular what your grandma's coming through with a feeling of career wise, you can do anything and everything. We're heading towards what lights you up, and she's supporting you to get there.
What lights you up? That is good. Like I've been lucky to have a wonderful career, of which I'm very proud of. But, sort of, I think after winning that award that we're talking about a little earlier, I was really starting to ask myself the questions, is this what I still want to be doing? Does this still light the fire in my belly? Am I still getting as much from this as I was earlier on? Or am I evolving into something else where I'm looking for... perhaps, I think I needed a little bit of narcissism, I think, to start off in my career, to climb ahead, to race up the ladder faster than the person next to me, to win that award or to get that TV show. But I feel like some of that is stripping away and those narcissistic drivers that you need to be competitive in this world to get ahead, right? But I don't feel like I have those drivers as strong anymore. And I feel like I'm just kind of looking for different kinds of rewards that, but I don't know where to look. I don't know where that is. I know that time is something you just have to let it reveal itself in true time and try not to get sort of caught up in your head and get stuck in a state of fear. So I'm constantly trying to just tread water and go, no, it's okay. It'll reveal. But you're right. That's where I'm at.
That's the exact feeling I get. Yeah, you're on the path. It's going to become apparent soon.
Excellent.
I love that. Any other spirits or messages coming through? Yep. Okay.
She's nodding.
Yeah.
We got a few, if that's okay. Now,
Yeah.
I don't even know who this is with, but they've been around for even before I knew I was coming on this podcast. So we'll, both of these actually, we'll start with the male energy and I'll go to the female next. This energy, again, I feel them first. So he feels not like a relation, like this isn't a blood connection. This feels like I almost want to say brothers, but this feels more like a friend who's like a brother. This isn't, we were born, raised together, that sort of thing. He passed young. Like this is not somebody who would have lived even into their 30s. Like I get the feeling of just starting out in life. And he also shows me like this, although we may not have been expecting the passing when it happened, like I wonder if this might have been a congenital illness. Like there's a feeling of I'll backtrack on that. There's the better way to put that is there's a feeling of he had been sick for a while. Now, what's interesting is he wants me to sort of put my hand on my heart. And so I don't know the connection with heart, if this is just, heartbroken grief. It feels more than that, I would say. There might have been a heart condition. George, does this make sense for you?
It does.
I'll give you more here, but I feel like I'm being pulled to you as I'm connecting with him here. And what he keeps showing me, it's like I can see him with short, dark hair. And it's like he's in like a sports uniform, and he's showing me number 27. Would number 27 make sense at all?
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
I'm not sure about the 27, but the short brown hair, the sport jersey and get up makes sense, and the hand on heart thing absolutely. A mate of mine, a mate of many of my mates, passed away when he was 20, and that was, I think about a year ago.
It's funny, as I was just starting to connect, I could feel a pull to you, but he's also like, he knows this is me coming through. Like, he knows this is me. And
Yeah.
I don't know how this relates, but I always trust whatever they bring through will make sense. And he keeps showing me an image of Oscar the Grouch.
What?
His
George?
name was Oscar.
Oh
His name
my
was
God!
Oscar.
Oh my God!
They get us to the things in the most beautiful ways. I love that.
Oh,
Yeah. And
Jesus.
I don't always get names, but when I do, it's because they just want you to know beyond a doubt that it's them. Right. And I
Wow.
feel like for you, there is an important message around. I don't know that this is just solely for you, but certainly for you and others. There's a message around not being able to say goodbye, not having a farewell, not having a proper send off. And he just it's like he's just standing right by you and waving at you, and he's like, there aren't any goodbyes. Like, I'm not gone. We will see each other again. And I think he wants you to know, he wants his family to know, he wants this group of guys, how I see it, he wants everybody to know that he is not suffering. Like, he is happy, he is healthy. It's like he's running around on the other side supporting everyone else. But he's like, I don't even have to catch my breath anymore. Like, I can be everywhere and everywhere at once. And he just needs you to know he's okay.
That is so comforting to hear, because I was in a different state when he passed away, and wasn't able to get to the funeral. So there was a sense of not being able to actually say goodbye in that typical funeral sense. And it's really comforting. That's super comforting to hear. That's incredible. That's incredible.
There's something to, and I don't know whether this has happened yet or is coming up, but he talks about showing up in your dreams. So I've often find we have spirit visitors in our dreams and we don't always remember them, right? We'll maybe remember 1 out of 20 times that they show up. But when and if that happens, know that you're not making this up. Like, he is actually visiting you in your dreams and letting you know for yourself that he's okay.
There's that song. Okay. There's that song. I think it's P. Diddy, I'll Be Missing You. Every breath you take. And I'm pretty sure that song played at his funeral. And every time that song comes on, I do get very vivid visuals of him and do feel him around me. We were super tight in like year 9, and we sort of weren't as tight sort of in our final years of high school, but still knew we were there for each other, and it was completely loved by absolutely everybody. So if there's anybody I do feel some kind of connection to, it's definitely Oscar. Wow.
They always know who needs to show up. I love it.
Jesus. Wow. Woo.
I hate to cut you off after that one, but there's one more that is just so needs to come through. So I want to open the door to this female. And again, I'm not positive who she's connected with here. But again, when I feel her energy right away, this feels more like a friend connection, somebody who might have been like family, but this isn't a blood connection. And her piercing blue eyes, just, it's like, that's all I can see in my mind's eye. She keeps showing me, again, this is something I see in my mind's eye, but there's a feeling, there's such a sense of love and comfort as she shows me this image of 3 sisters. And so I don't know if this is her with 3 sisters. My gut more almost is it's her and 2 sisters, but there's an important identifier with her and her sisters. And She shows me my symbol for Cancer. So I work with a lot of symbols, and it's almost a hard symbol to explain because it's something I see in my mind's eye, but I feel at the same time. And there's just a sense of this happened so much younger than anyone could have ever imagined. And, every death is tragic in its own way, but nobody could describe her death as anything but tragic, almost in a way. And it's as if she wants to come through and say, it's like she wants to say she's sorry. And it's not as if she's living in regret or sorrow on the other side, but she's so aware of how hard her death has hit everyone. And I don't, Chezzi, does this make sense for you?
It does. Yeah.
Again, I feel like I'm being pulled to you, but she's showing me like the imagery of like Adam and Eve.
Oh, shit.
I'm going with that makes some sort of sense.
My partner's name is Adam.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing good. You're doing good. There's a sense as she's showing me this imagery, like there is so much love and support, and my symbol of an umbrella, which is her watching over everyone under her umbrella, right? Everyone she's responsible for and more, she's watching over and protecting. But there is such a sense of heartbreak for sort of leaving him, leaving the family when she would have never wanted to at that time. And I think something that's hard to understand, that, even me sharing this, no matter how many times I share it, I think it's hard for us to understand why those in spirit would say no one's on the other side unless it's right for their soul. Like, even though her human self could say, how could I possibly want to leave my family, my friends, all of this, just as life is sort of starting, is what I want to say. But her soul on the other side says, I'm at peace with it. And there are paths for everyone involved that I can support. And for you, Chezzi, there is, I can just feel her sort of wrapping you in a hug. And it's not like she's a big woman, right? I don't feel like her physical body was big at all.
She's very
lean.
lean.
It's like when she wraps her sort of arms around me, it's like her energy is just so big and loving and enormous. And there's an important message of knowing. It's like, you already know she's around you all the time. There's something about music in particular with her. Like, she sends you not even necessarily a song you might associate with her. Like, some spirits there, like George said, there's a specific song that when you hear, you think of him, right? It doesn't even feel like that with you. It's sort of like whatever you need in the moment, she's sending to you. And you might not always realize it's her, but there's certainly a sense of sending you messages all the time, and you feeling her around too.
I had I got into my car once and I hadn't even started my car, and there's an Australian singer called Amy Shark, and the song is Tell Them All I Said Hi, and it just started playing as I was driving out to see her family. Yeah, I do feel her around a lot.
For you in particular, there is such a message of, it's like she wants to tell you to stop feeling bad. And I always say these things are easier said than done, but it's like there's some guilt that you carry. I don't know if it's around her passing or connected to it, and somehow it's like I can feel this emotion of guilt in my gut, and it's like she wants to lift it and set it aside. And she's like, you always thought of me. You were always there for me. Might not be in the ways that you would have wanted to do, knowing I would be on the other side when I would. But she says, like, there is nothing you need to hold against yourself, because it was always thinking of me. And she just wants to thank you. And again, it's like she says hi to everyone. She wants everyone to know she's okay. All right, you guys can stop fiddling with me here. We'll keep my earbuds in and my clothes on. Thank you.
I did notice that. Your earbud fell out and then your shirt's like being shifted, and yeah.
Is it, do you constantly, do you feel all of those voices at once, or do they cut through one at a time, or?
Yeah, so I would say I definitely had to make some strong boundaries with spirit when I first started opening up, because the more I realized, oh, I can do this for other people, the more they realized and the more they showed up. Right. So there are, if I want to open up and pay attention, there are lots of spirits who will get my attention. And the more I've practiced it, the more I can sort of do some crowd control where I can say, all right, you first, you come on in, and sort of almost like I pull them into my energy, and the other ones need to stay at the peripherals until it's time for them.
It's amazing how you can like be communicating with these, energies and still hold a conversation. Because
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I'd be like, hold on a sec, because I get distracted by shiny things or birds flying past, and then I lose my train of thought.
Everything.
Yeah, I do. And so I don't know how you can do crowd control with your mind and then still communicate. But obviously that's why you're the medium school teacher.
I will say it's taken some practice, because certainly being in the energy of spirit, like, it is hard to put words on energy. That's one of the hardest things for people, right? You can feel them or get a message, but to even describe it to someone else, it feels impossible to put words on it, right? The more you practice that sort of describing things as close to how you receive them, the easier it is to sort of be able to hold that conversation. And there are certainly times where I'm receiving things where it's too much and I need to say, back off. Like, I can't do this work. I can't communicate here if that energy is coming in so strong, right? But it's definitely taken some practice.
The fact that you can do this over Zoom has blown my mind. I wouldn't have I thought that it's an energy thing where we must be in each other's space, each other's field. You hold a piece of jewelry, or at least you look us in the eyes, and it all starts to connect. But the fact you're in Toronto and we're here in Bathurst, the little country town in New South Wales, Australia, blows my mind.
But that's what blew me away with the development circle thing that I did last week, when you broke us off into little groups and we got to like do a practice. And I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, and I actually thought I'm going to just go down some strange path here, and it was so amazing. It was such an amazing thing, because obviously you don't know what happened in each of those rooms, and I spoke about it last week. I just kind of closed my eyes and said a few things, and I said, I think I'm being drawn to you. I can't remember the lady's name. And I literally said something about a dog and something about a god. And what I pictured in my head was this dog, like just kind of sitting there. And then I pictured, like the old Jesus
pose.
The Jesus pose. Yeah. And she was like, oh my God, my dog Zeus is my life, remember? And I was like,
Zeus is the Greek god.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I got it.
And that's your first attempt.
And over Zoom, yeah. But I do feel that I've got somebody pushing me into your face a lot. And that's been reconfirmed today. Yeah.
Well, I will allow it. I'll let them.
Oh my God.
How cool's your life knowing that you can connect people and give them the one important message that they need to either move on or elevate or smile again? God, what a beautiful, beautiful gift.
It feels like an incredible gift, but I always hate to use that term because I'm no more gifted than anyone else, right? And there is something incredibly humbling about it there is such a beautiful healing that can happen from a message. There's a lot of pressure too to always live up to that as well, right?
That is so true. It's like 11:30 in Toronto at night, so we should let you go.
Yeah, spirits are probably saying, "Shut the hell up and go to sleep." Rest that fine instrument of yours, so you can help the next generation.
Rory, can you give yourself a plug? Where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on the mediumschool.com. I've got a free intuitive development training course that people can sign up for. You can also find my book, 11 Lessons from My Dead Dad, worldwide on Amazon. It is a step-by-step guide to connecting with your past loved ones. And then you can find me on all the socials at The Medium School on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the good ones.
Okay, before you go, this is a question from George. Definitely not from me, but definitely from George. George wants to know, can the spirit see him when he's going to the toilet? Because he gets a bit nervous about that. Like, do they ever switch off?
It's funny. I have had so many experiences with spirit in the bathroom.
What?
So this is a question I have a lot of interest in myself. And it's funny. They're around all of the time, right?
no.
They're around us all the time, but they aren't interested in our day-to-day stuff, right? It's almost as if they experience us as energy, their energy. They don't see us as physical beings. So they don't see us naked. They don't see us going to the bathroom. They don't see us doing other things, right? They're around us, but they're not tuned in to any of that. So you're okay, George.
So George is fine to continue playing with himself. That's great. That's good news. Good news.
Oh my God.
I was worried for a second. Thank you so much, Rory. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Rory. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it. We will get you back on down the track. Maybe after I've done a bit more of the course and I can practice some of my, my reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check back in. See how you're
now
going.
now I'm always right. So every time I talk,
Rory.
I'm always
Rory.
right.
What have you done?
What's done is done. Sorry, guys.
Well, thank you for being a wonderfully warm conduit between our those that have passed that we needed to hear those precious messages from.
you.
So we appreciate your warmth and your compassion and your ability to help us get those messages. So you take care. We look forward to chatting to you sometime soon.
Thanks, Rory.
Thanks so much, guys. And thanks to Spirit, too.
Thanks, Spirit.
Thank you, spirits.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love all of that. I think I don't know.
That was
I think I'm feeling quite I don't know, wiped out after that.
How are you, mate? You good?
Oh, I've got no words. I really don't have any words after that. That was such a spin out experience.
Mate, when she got you with Oscar the Grouch,
Your face, but I don't know if it will show up on the Zoom because she was talking, but your face was like blown away. Yeah,
I still can't believe it. I actually can't believe that just happened. Because I've always felt a connection to him, and I never really knew why, because we weren't super duper close towards the end of high school. We were friends. But I've always felt something, and then she said that, and it kind of all made sense.
and it must have given you some sense of peace or ease. Like, had you been kicking that around in your mind, like regrets about not going to the funeral, or aren't you?
Well, yeah. At the time, I was devastated that I couldn't get to the funeral, and how it affected his closer circle of mates. I was a school captain of that year group, and I had a lot of people come to me with how they were feeling about it. And I felt very guilty that I wasn't able to be there with them, for them, and at the funeral. And, but she held her hand on the heart too. It was a heart condition. It was heart disease.
Jesus.
I didn't even know
Unreal.
that. I didn't even know that you had a friend, but when she was talking and I was looking at Grant and I was thinking, I think this is George's friend, but your face was like,
27, was that the number that she said?
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder.
It could have been his number for his AFL team that he played for.
Oh, you're gonna have to ask someone, mate, and find out, because that would be, not that we need more proof that she was amazing, because
No,
she was.
she's very, very good. And I really like the fact that when she talks, she always says she wants the highest vibration and only healing messages to come through.
Highest and best.
Yeah,
What'd she say?
I'm
She
really
said something
into
before
this.
highest and best. She said,
I'm really, I'm very invested.
so only give me the messages that are meaningful and that person needs. Is
Yeah,
what,
and
what
positive,
she means by saying
positive.
highest and best. How does it make you feel, though, knowing that, mate, he's on the other side? He's all good. He's all good. He's living it, loving it.
I felt like there was this sort of weight on my shoulders before hearing that I didn't even know was there. And since hearing that, I feel this sense of happiness that he is okay, that he is doing okay over there. And, she kind of conveyed this cheeky sort of nature that he had, and he was cheeky. He was one of the cheekiest blokes in our whole entire year group. So I'm probably going to finish this podcast and be very reflective and just be like, what the F?
Yeah.
And very glad that he can't see me while I'm in bed by myself.
Well, maybe he can.
I just thought I'd get that in the end. In there. I know it was stupid to finish on such a boyish, dumb joke.
It's all true fashion though. That's how we finish it. But I think this episode more than any other. I mean, we're always open, we're always honest, we're always saying what's in our mind. But I don't know. I feel like we've got to a point where we are so vulnerable and just putting our hearts in our sleeve. I forgot that we were in a podcast record, and I forgot that there's a lot of people out there listening. So thank you guys for just being that way, because I think it's helping people.
But how nice to know that, mate, no matter what you endure, maybe it's a heartbreak, or maybe it's a job situation, or maybe it's a financial situation, or maybe it's just a general life situation where that these other avenues of help that you just got to ask for, and they will guide you. Like, because it's so easy to get to a point of feeling utterly helpless. We're all guilty of doing that. But just knowing that there's just a couple of little skills, just a couple of little things that you need to do, and then let that information flow, let that guidance happen, and you'll be pulled in the right direction. That's cool. And then obviously Amy came through for you. She's a strong one.
She is strong, and I never really want to do that too much to her family through the podcast. I feel like that maybe that should be a private thing, but she just always comes through.
She keeps coming through. I'm good. Tell everyone I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
She does.
She's like, I'm on the podcast now.
And so I have to.
For the fourth time.
She's becoming like the fourth member of this team.
I know. I have to respect that, because the last time that I didn't give her, time to say what she wanted to say, she came through the next day quite strong. So,
which is now you should probably at this point explain the email that you had with Rory beforehand. That fourth paragraph.
Oh, how I said, if you have any spare, yeah, I did. So I'll have to read it now, so it doesn't sound like it was set up. But yeah, I just said to her that.
Yeah, this was not set up. You gave her no details, but we knew that
I said in the past we have spoken with mediums, and I have tried very hard to block certain messages from people because I just felt that it's too emotional for family and friends. Because it's almost like forcing them to hear messages from somebody. Like, it's just a weird.
You don't know if
I don't know how.
You don't know if they're ready, or if that's
right.
And I don't causes more grief or helps.
Exactly. And so I just feel like that's something that I can do in private, not through the podcast. But
however, in your email, you were like.
I was like, yeah, if somebody is trying to come through, then allow them to come through, for any of us throughout the chat, because, in the past we have tried to stop spirits coming through, and they come through anyway. So I gave her permission, if anybody was, trying to come through, to allow them to come through.
To feel confident that you're okay to
because part of her schooling is very big on ethics, so you can't just go and do a reading for someone. You know how she said when she was in the yoga class, like, I didn't realize you have to actually ask permission, and even if it's your kids or your pets, you have to ask their permission. So she's very big on that. So that's
consent in the medium world.
I loved watching that sink in on you, mate. I loved watching that.
Oh, what about you? Like, your grandmother was pulling your shirt
during
off.
Yours, GD.
So was I.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool. And Scout's middle name is
Una.
And that's my grandmother's name. So it was nice that she said how honoured she was by that. Actually, she was great with names, wasn't she? She got, my grandmother's name, Una, with Scout's middle name. Got Oscar. Got, what did she say? Adam and Eve with Adam and Amy. Like, just straight to it. Like, no fishing around. Just wow.
I really feel like I need to go and eat a whole bag of chocolate Easter eggs.
Yeah, I just need a massive pub feed.
Pub feed sounds
Yes,
good.
let's do that.
We're doing the same thing that we did last week. We're doing the off-air chat on the air,
No, it's called the debrief. It's called the on-air debrief.
which we're started to do a lot. Thank you everyone for joining us, and
Hope you got something out of it. You know, we've all got the power. We've all got the same instrument. Do that little bit of meditation and just open up to the signs.
Yep, and I forgot to say her meditation was only quite short that she did with me, but you basically put your feet on the ground and you picture, look at all the birds. That's a sign. You picture a vibration coming up from Mother Earth, and you just keep saying that, you know, that you're feeling and you're experiencing a higher vibration come from your feet to your head, and picture a colour and just have it rising for, you know, a minute, 2 minutes, and that helps raise your vibration. So, and that really helped me because it's pretty easy to visualize that.
Rather than committing to,
yeah,
30 minutes of meditation or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Right, I'm a man. You
Okay.
take care. That was wonderful.
Love you guys.
Love
Look
you
forward
too,
to
bro.
chatting the next episode on whatever the heck we get emotional about.
No, next
I'll actually bring tissues this time.
next week we're going.
Fuck.
I'm going to try and get you guys hypnotized. I found a hypnotist,
God.
and I'm just trying to line up his times with ours. So that is coming up, and I don't know if it's possible. Are you open to being hypnotized?
Yep, unless I reveal something deep and personal and embarrassing, like what I got caught inside me that one time. And then I'm
Light
fine.
bulb.
The toy car.
Righto, you all. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to It's All Tears.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Chezzi George.
Bye bye.